Now, if you plug in or program 2 plus 2 equals 5 in a computer and ask the computer how much is 2 plus 2, it's going to answer you 5. Whether that's factual or not, the computer doesn't care. The computer doesn't know anything more than what it's been programmed with. Well, it's the same thing with us. If we were programmed at some stage that we're not as good as we should be, if we were programmed sometime in our life that we couldn't do something we really wanted to do, if we were programmed sometime in our life that mommy or daddy didn't like us or that they were angry with us, we came to believe that is true. We simply accepted it. Then as we go through life, every time we make a problem, or every time we make a mistake, or every time we have a challenge that is of our causing, immediately we go through those 5 little routines and it flips back, you're not as good as you should be. You're not as smart as you should be. You're not as good looking as you should be. Whatever it is. But anything that compares you to another person in regards to intelligence or beauty or goodness is totally false. Because we are all unique individuals. The biggest fallacy of the human condition is that we think we are not as good as we should be. So what is the answer to this? And we go through life feeling somewhat downtrodden and feeling somewhat sorrowful and suffering because we're a misfit, because we're unworthy in the eyes of God, and because we're just not as good as we should be? No. We identify the feeling that gives us, and if it's one that works against us, if it's a feeling that weakens us, if it's a feeling that doesn't feel good, we know that it is not based on truth. Because the truth is that you're an expression of divine spirit. You come forth from the one power and the one presence in the universe. There is nothing wrong with the way you are. You're a student of life, not a graduate of life. You're on your unique and individual path, just doing life the best you know how. But as human beings, we have 2 particular spiritual attributes that every other living creature does not have. We have the power of reflection, and we have the power of imagination. And because those are 2 relatively new attributes that we've discovered within ourselves, we don't quite know how to master them yet. And so we are practicing how to use reflection and imagination. We can reflect on a situation or a circumstance and call on what is in our mind to define that, or we can reflect on that situation and circumstance in a different way. Like maybe there's something I don't know here. And the traffic jam is a perfect example of that. You know, my one little 15-minute delay was causing me anguish and suffering. But as soon as I looked at it in a different way, it could be a whole lot worse. The situation had absolutely no negative effect on me at all. And that is the same with every single thing we go through in life. Our emotions, our emotional heart, the heart-mind, as a way of alerting us as to what is true and what isn't true, what is good for us and what isn't good for us, what strengthens us and what weakens us. And just as we injure the body and there is a pain and we turn our attention to it and do everything we can to heal that cut or that injury, we can do the same thing with the emotional hurts that we encounter simply by changing the thoughts and the feelings that we have in our mind. And although it's not as simple as reprogramming a computer, it is one that shows immediate benefits. You see, our minds are very much like a radio. A radio has many channels. If you tune into the country western channel, you're going to be thinking country western thoughts. If you tune into the rock station, am I the only country western fan in here? If you turn into the rock station, you're going to be thinking rock thoughts. If you turn into the talk radio, you're going to be thinking about whatever the subject matter is. Radio has many channels, and you have to fine-tune, or you did in my day, this is not so much anymore, but you have to fine-tune to move through the static and to move through all the gravelly stuff to tune it in just precisely so you get the channel you want. It's exactly the same thing with our mind. Our mind has many different emotional channels, and the channel that we tune into, the emotion that we think about most of the time, is the person that we become. If you've tuned into the anger channel over certain situations and circumstances, you're going to become an angry person. If you tune into the happy channel for situations and circumstances, you're going to become a happy person. We become what we think about most of the time. So as you go through your life and you find yourself in a situation where you're starting to stress out a little bit, you're starting to have a fear of any sort, and you're starting to get angry or flushed or frustrated with another person, you just realize that I need to change the channel for my own well-being, not for anybody else or anything else. I need to change the channel, and I can do that. I can leave the anger channel, and I can slowly move towards the content, peace of mind, serene channel. And although it might take me a little while to find that on a consistent basis, the more I practice, the more I can do it. Now this goes back to what I said in the beginning in regards to the 5 things that lead up to emotional experience. The first is attention. If your attention is on the negative, we have to be aware of that, aware of what we're thinking and how it feels. When we perceive something, there's many different ways we can perceive it. Once again, the traffic jam. I can perceive it as hell. I can perceive it as heaven compared to somebody else. We move into how do I think about this? If the thinking is one of a divisive nature or one of a nature where we are against something, we can change the way we think and be in support of its opposite. You know, a good example is the Plaza building that was brought up this week. And there's people on both sides. There's people that think the building should be built. There's people that think it shouldn't. And to me, I'm not on either side. I support everybody in their own thinking. But instead of being against the law firm that wants to put up the building and creating an enemy or an adversary, we could shift our thinking to being for maintaining the building structures that are there, where we don't have an enemy. When we're against something, it creates a negative energy. We have an enemy. We're against something that weakens us. When we're for something, it's a creative energy, and it strengthens us. So in every situation or circumstance where you feel like you're pushing against something or resisting, it's simply by saying, what do I want, not what do I not want, and putting your energy into that. And you'll discover that the results will come. Now we're going to do a little longer meditation this morning because we're going to fine-tune our mind and find a channel that truly allows each of us to experience a deep sense of peace and serenity this morning. We're going to find within you, and it is there all the time, that channel, that emotional channel that allows you to completely be released of stress and find a level of peace where you have credible enjoyment and appreciation for this moment in the life you're living. We'll now move into meditation.